Lives are about to change with the 2020 NBA Draft set to begin on Wednesday, November 18th. Hello everyone and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Brooke Steach, joined by Hunter Pitcoff and Austin Groft. Tonight we're bringing you our final edition of our weekly NBA mock drafts. But let's start off with the Phoenix Suns making a blockbuster move to acquire Chris Paul from the Oklahoma City Thunder. How does this move impact Phoenix and the rest of the draft?
First off, wow, I didn't expect this. I didn't think we were going to be talking about a big trade like this on our segment, but that's the business for you. But let's look at the Phoenix Suns here. This is probably the biggest trade they've made since they got Charles Barkley there. But Chris Paul, you pair him with Devin Booker, that's instantly one of the best backcourts in all of basketball. Also, too, a little bit underrated fact here. Monty Williams coached Chris Paul with New Orleans. It was only for a couple of years, but they already have that rapport. We saw Phoenix go 8-0 in the bubble. They didn't get that chance to fight for a playoff spot, but they absolutely deserved it. You look at this young core, I think they needed that leader. They needed that dog there. Chris Paul's that guy, and I think there's no excuse, none, that the Suns aren't talented enough to make the playoffs this year. So this is a big move by the Suns.
Yeah, I agree with you, Hunter. A huge move by the Suns. Chris Paul and Devin Booker are going to be insane. One of the best backcourts in the NBA now. You saw them going 8-0, but I think the Thunder won this trade long term. You know, they got Kelly Oubre Jr., and they got way more draft picks out of this. They're stacking up on those draft picks year in and year after that. But I see the Thunder in a couple of years being one of the top teams in the league just because they're bringing those young guys. They got Ty Jerome and Jalen LeCue as well from the Suns, who are also young guys who are going to make an impact in the league.
After building off an 8-0 performance in the NBA bubble and getting Chris Paul, let's see if the Suns can make a push towards the playoffs. But Hunter, how do you see the lottery turning out following this news?
This is probably one of the most unpredictable drafts, maybe since like 2013. I mean, this could be completely wrong. I may go over 0 of 30 and look like a complete idiot, but let's pretend for a second here. First overall pick, it can be a LaMelo Ball, but if I'm thinking of it from a basketball perspective, Anthony Edwards is a better fit next to what they already have in D'Angelo Russell and Karl-Anthony Towns. I think he's the most naturally talented player in this draft, so I think Minnesota goes with him 1. Number 2, James Wiseman. You talk about fit, right? The Warriors have not had an elite 5-man during this dynasty run. Wiseman can come in right away, make an impact, but they can groom him and expand his game, and he can be a future cornerstone for that franchise post-Steph Curry era. LaMelo Ball 3, if you're the Hornets, you can't pass up on him. And you look at a nice offensive backcourt, him and Devontae Graham. That's a whole lot of buckets there. 4 and 5, these are just great fits. Denny Advia, you talk about a guy who's a point forward to go alongside 2 shot-hungry guards and Zach LaVine and Kobe White. I really like that 3 there. And then looking at the Cavs at 5, they need some excitement, need some flair. Obi Toppin's that guy. He's not LeBron James, but he's going to bring some of that same old intensity, that same old excitement, and I know it's excitement quite a couple times, that he saw at Dayton. He's going to bring that right to Cleveland. This is the money spot for a trade right here. I think the Hawks are looking to wheel and deal and get a veteran player there. It could be the Celtics. They got 3 first-round picks. They may move up and try to get a higher position in the draft. It could be the Pelicans at 13 because they're shopping Jrue Holiday, and he'd be a great fit with Trae Young. But we didn't do trades in this mock draft, so I think Tyrese Halliburton, a guy who can play either guard spot, makes a ton of sense to help Trae Young there. Number 7, I don't agree with this pick, but I think that the Pistons really like Patrick Williams. That's their guy, and so I'm going to mock them going the guy out of Florida State. And back-to-back Seminoles here. Got Devin Vassell to the Knicks. It's not like the biggest name, but he's a really solid player, a 3-and-D guy who would fit really nicely next to R.J. Barrett. Number 9, Onyeka Okongwu out of USC. They got John Wall coming back. He's great in the pick and roll. He's a great pick and roll big man, Okongwu. I think that's a great fit there. One of my favorite players in the draft. I know they just traded for Chris Paul, but get another guard there in Kyra Lewis out of Alabama. Your long-term answer there. Plus, he can play either guard spot. The fastest player in the draft, maybe one of the fastest risers in the draft in terms of his draft stock. I think this is a great fit for them at 10. A lot of people are mocking this, but Jalen Smith to the Spurs. This is maybe one of my more bold predictions here, but you look at what the Spurs want big men. They want high character, smart IQ guys who can play both sides of the floor, can run the floor, rebounds. He's an electric guy who is very energetic. I think that is the perfect Spurs player to go at 11. And even if they don't trade Buddy Hield, I think the Kings need to add another shooter. Aaron Nesmith makes a ton of sense. Shooting wins you games. That's how it is. He's the best shooter in the draft. I can't see him not going in the lottery. Isaac Okoro at 13. Best defensive on-ball player perhaps in the entire draft. He falls here to 13. The offense just isn't there, but they got plenty of offense in New Orleans with Zion and Brandon Ingram in them. They need a defensive specialist. He's that guy. And you talk about a plug-and-play guy, one of the most bust-proof guys in the entire draft at 14, Saddiq Bey. He was a winner at Villanova. Reminds me a little bit of Jay Crowder, a guy who knows his role within basketball society. I think he's a perfect fit for the Celtics, who right now need a guy who can come in right away and make an impact.
There's definitely a lot of uncertainty towards the top of the draft. Could be a couple surprise picks in there, like you mentioned, Hunter. But Austin, where do you see some of these top players landing?
So unlike you, Hunter, I actually have LaMelo Ball going first overall. He's going to represent the big baller brand. I think he has the most talent out of any of the players in the draft. He does lack defensively, so he does need to improve there. Second, I have James Wiseman. Now, the Golden State Warriors, like I said, they need a center. He's going to fit perfectly along Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. I could possibly see the Hornets trade up because they also need a center, but if they do pass up on that, they're going to take Anthony Edwards. He's the next top prospect in this draft. Moving on, number 4, Tyrese Halliburton going to the Bulls. Now, like you said, you have Deni Avdija going there, but I think he's the better guard, and he probably has the highest basketball IQ out of all the players in the draft. Cleveland Cavaliers, Obi Toppin, like you said, explosive player, led the team in Dayton. They could have been national championships last year, but unfortunately because of COVID-19, we didn't get to see that. And then I have the Hawks taking Deni Avdija, the overseas player, one of the first overseas players to go in this draft. You know, very talented. He can play almost any position. Great handle of the ball, great shot selection. He just needs to improve his shot off the dribble. Next up at Patrick Williams, like you said, the Pistons really like him. Unfortunately, he did not start at Florida State as a freshman. He's this youngest player out of the collegiate level in this draft. So it's going to be interesting to see how his NBA career pans out. His ceiling is very high, let's just say that. Next up, 8, Tyrese Maxi. I know you may think this is a very high draft pick for Maxi, but I think this is the most New York Knicks thing that could possibly happen. Just because, look at Kentucky. They're always producing insane players. You got Jamal Murray, you got Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, all amazing in the bubble this year. So Tyrese Maxi is another player at Kentucky who's going to be able to make an impact in the league this year. Next up, for the Wizards, like you said, defensive center in Onyeka Okongwu. He's going to be fantastic for them. Defensive center is exactly what the Wizards need. 10, Kyrie Lewis, like you said, your guy, fastest guy in the draft. Very impressive at Alabama, averaging just around 16 points per game. I think he's going to fit in perfect. He's going to learn from Chris Paul and Devin Booker. He's going to be a great backup for this team. For the Spurs, we got Isaac Okoro out of Auburn. I think he's one of the best two-way players in this draft. He's one of the best finishers around the rim, too, so I think he's going to be a perfect fit for the Spurs offense and defense. Next up is Killian Hayes, another player from across the seas here. He played over in France, and I think he's a good fit for the Kings too, but I do see this is where the big trade I see happening here, the Sixers and the Kings. Buddy Hield possibly going to the Sixers because the Sixers need to clear up some space there. They need to bring in a guard who's a shooter, so I see him possibly getting rid of their 21st pick and as well as Al Horford, and Killian Hayes is going to take the spot of Buddy Hield there. 13, I got Aaron Nesmith, like you said, best shooter in the draft. I feel like he's going to fit along perfect there with J.J. Redick, and it's going to give options for Zion Williamson to kick out to when he's driving. And finally, Saddiq Bey, my guy out of Villanova. Villanova, 2016, 2018 national championships, always producing great players, great two-way players, can play both on defense and the offensive side of the ball. He's a great fit for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if there's any more trades to shake up the draft board like we've seen over the last couple of days. Now, looking back at the end of the first round, this is where teams have the chance to find those diamonds in the rough who make much bigger impacts than many anticipate. Who do you guys think some of those players are?
For me, one guy who's really rising in the draft is Desmond Bane at TCU. Now, look, he didn't have the greatest numbers at TCU, I get it, but look at this pick 20 right here for the Miami Heat. They like high-character guys, guys who are willing to get after it on both sides of the ball, guys who can play within a system and know their role. Desmond Bane's that guy. He's rising up the boards for a reason. He's a guy who, yes, there's going to be no NBA Summer League, shortened preseason, not as much time in training camp, but he's a guy who I think can come in right away out of these rookies and make an immediate impact. And you know the Heat want to go to the finals again. Another guy, I don't even have him on here because that's how underrated he is, and that is Malachi Flynn out of San Diego State. This guy only lost 2 games last season with the Aztecs. Not only was he Mountain West Player of the Year, he was Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year at that point guard position. That's really hard. That shows you that he locks guys up on that side of the ball. And look, he's not the biggest guy. He doesn't get to the foul line as much. Shot selection is not the best. I get it. But he's an explosive playmaker, both helping others out and getting his own shot. He's a guy who maybe goes late first round or definitely in the second round that I think can come in right away and show people that maybe they shouldn't have been passing up on him.
My first sleeper in this draft is Alexi Pokazewski, the 7-footer overseas, but he weighs only right around 200 pounds. It's crazy to see a 7-foot guy handle the ball as well as he does, and he's got an insane 3-point jumper. If he can bulk up and gain some weight, I feel like he's going to be a crazy player to watch in this league. And finally, my last sleeper is Xavier Tillman out of Michigan State. You know, he wasn't that offensively powered for Michigan State last year. He averaged just around 14 points, but he's one of the best two-way players in this draft. His defense is unreal, and I think with his frame and his body, he's going to be a great fit for late round possibly in the NBA draft this year.
That wraps up our third and final edition of our NBA mock draft series. The draft will start at 8 p.m. on ESPN. For Hunter Pitcoff and Austin Groft, I'm Brooke Steach. Thanks for tuning in to Penn State Sports Night, and have a great night.
Thank you for watching this edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.